Hey, Amy.
Yeah, Juan.
Give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amy Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amy Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you. And make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Amy, ¿cómo estás?
It's been so long.
Long time. So on this episode, we're gonna talk about a few different things. So let's start off first, though. We have some updates to some stories. As you guys all know on this show, we'd like to watch this space and we'd like to keep you up to date on stories that we covered in the past. So, Amy, what do you got?
Well, you actually hit me with this earlier. I got a text from you about a potential gambling issue with San Diego Padres player Tucupita Marcano. So,
And that was Jeff Pat. Well, no, Jeff Passan came on. I think the people who were originally reporting that were
the Wall Street Journal actually first reported that there was some looming discipline, and basically it relates to Rule 21. So essentially what they're very explicit that players who bet on games involving their own team are subject to a lifetime ban. So right now, Marcano, they're investigating this, looking into it, saying that he potentially wagered on games involving the Pittsburgh Pirates when he was on the team last season. And there are potentially 4 minor league players involved in this looming discipline as well. So that's what the Wall Street Journal reported earlier and what has kind of been going around social media up to this point.
So when that story broke, Amy, I already started getting messages, about, well, Machado and Tatis must have known. And so I'm very happy that you made the distinction that this was last year when he was in Pittsburgh. But we're going to relive this whole Ohtani thing all over again, where everybody's going to see, Ohtani knew, all these players know.
They dug into the past too. They were like Pete Rose, the Black Sox scandal of 1919, Ipe Mizuhara, David Fletcher with his ongoing investigation. Like they brought up everybody.
So that was what was going to be my question to you, Amy, because this is now the third gambling story this year that we know of in terms of Major League Baseball. Does Major League Baseball have a gambling, at least on the surface, an image problem? And I say this only because we have so many gambling, sponsors. There's DraftKings. There's all, gambling is it seems like sports, and I don't know when this happened, Amy, has openly embraced the sponsorship of gambling. So when you do that, isn't it eventually going to cause problems like this? Does Major League Baseball have a problem that it's coming and they need to get ahead of it?
I don't know that it's Major League Baseball because ESPN released an article today after the Wall Street Journal reported on this, and they're basically like the NBA was cited, NFL players. So a little blurb from the ESPN article said, since the Supreme Court's 2018 ruling that began the spread of legal betting in the U.S., 12 NFL players, an assistant coach, and an undisclosed number of league personnel have been suspended for violating the gambling policy, in addition to Porter's banishment from the NBA. So we've also got an NBA situation going on, and now what we're starting to see in the MLB. So I don't know that it's necessarily isolated to the MLB, but gambling is an issue. We have support groups for this, much like any other vice out there. It is, if you get caught into it, it is life altering.
Look, I know for a lot of people, they're over these stories, these gambling stories, especially the Ohtani. The reason why we address these is because of exactly what Amy did, and I'm glad that Amy specified that this was something related to something that this guy did on another team. And unfortunately, we're still going to get people who are going to draw the show pods into this, who are going to sit there. I know Padres and Dodger fans are going to go back and forth with each other about the gambling thing. And it's like, we need to be informed just so we can avoid making ignorant comments.
And I would even go so far as to piggyback on that. This goes to everybody's making the assumption. I don't want to see it happen to the Padres. I didn't like seeing it happen to Shohei, but they're assuming that just because these guys are teammates, they know every facet of each other's lives. We don't show that. We've got people in these clubhouses, these locker rooms, different creeds, different faiths, different belief systems. That's not even getting into politics or anything else. So what I do in my personal life is personal to me. It's your personal life. So that does not mean that any of these players are necessarily sharing this information. Other teammates may not even know. What we've found out, I think I'm not sure if it was one of Ipe's articles or it was one of the articles about another player that had struggled with this. They purposefully did not tell anybody else because they were ashamed. So there's a lot that goes into this, and players don't know everything about each other. So
no, that's a very excellent point. I mean, this story just broke at the time that we were recording this episode. This story had just broken about an hour ago. So there's still not a lot of information, but the information that we have, of course, we want to go ahead and bring to you because it's important to be informed. Another story that we want to segue to, I know this happened last week and we didn't really get a chance to touch on it.
Well, we had a happy story about Josh Gibson real quick. Happy update.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Before
my
we
bad.
go on the roller coaster of
My bad.
We had talked about the Negro League stats getting incorporated into the MLB. And at the time, we did not know where Josh Gibson was going to land in that. And they actually released, he's the all-time single season record holder in at least 6 spots that I saw. So he has batting average of 466. He eclipsed Hugh Duffy. Slugging percentage, he has 974. He eclipsed Barry Bonds. He also eclipsed Barry Bonds in OPS with 1.474. And then as far as like highest career stats, his batting average was 372, eclipsing Ty Cobb. Career slugging 718. He eclipsed Babe Ruth there. And then also with OPS, he had 1.177, who again displaced Babe Ruth.
You know what, Amy, we touched on this very briefly last week when this was first announced, and we both thought this was a really great thing to happen to the sport. I shouldn't be, but I am baffled to the reaction to this. I know it's about like 50-50. There's a lot of people I know that feel the same way that I do, but the other people that are completely upset about this, I'm trying to put myself in their shoes and understand why they're so upset about this, because in no way does this make Babe Ruth, does this make Ty Cobb, does this make Barry Bonds any less players, right? In no way does that do that. But for some reason, there are people that have very strong feelings about this. And that's part of the reason why I think Major League Baseball had to do this, because it's like, this is to bring attention. This is all this is to bring attention about how there were great players out there that did not get their due. And the fact that people are so up in arms about this, I'm just like, guys, don't we have better ways to spend our energy?
Do you even like baseball, bros?
And these people like baseball a little too much to be like, I just don't get it. I don't get it.
I'm actually happy that we have more stats, because you know me, I am a self-proclaimed nerd. So anytime I can get anytime I can get my hands on more numbers to, bust out my stash of highlighters, I'm excited about. So you won't hear a complaint out of me.
All right. Do you have any more positive updates?
I
didn't mean to step on.
No, we're good there. Now we're ready to move on.
So the Jorge Lopez situation with the Metropolitans, we didn't get a chance to talk about this last week because when we recorded, this had not happened. So Jorge Lopez was the Mets reliever who ended up throwing his glove in the air, and then he made a comment in a post-game interview in terms of saying that the Mets were the worst. They're the worst team in MLB, and it ended up with him getting released the next day. So a couple of things, Amy, that I want to throw at you. First, I want to start off with the glove throwing into the stands, because I know a lot of people are saying that is probably the major reason why he was released, because you just don't do that. And I don't think we can talk about the way you saw the video, how he threw the glove. It was an underhand toss.
He flung it over. Yeah.
It wasn't like it was a projectile. Now, what is the difference with him underhanding a glove to him underhanding a ball in the stands?
I didn't see that there was a difference. He's visibly upset. The people who are arguing that it's not very sportsman, sure, I can see the argument there. However, like, do these guys truly have an outlet for some of this stuff? Like, this is where I always kind of chuckle, because women are branded, oh, you guys are so emotional, but we have benches that clear. You have people running in from the bullpen to make sure that they get in on it. Sometimes players get hit by a pitch, and then you have some of the unwritten rules, like, well, we've got to hit them back. Like, there's so many things that it's so hard to know, like, okay, it's okay this time, but it's not okay that time. Somebody made the comparison on social media. It wasn't tit for tat as far as like throwing a glove, but somebody had brought up the fact that last year Bryce Harper charged one of the umps, and he was lauded on social media. And, he throws a glove. You could see the fans, they were stoked. I think it was somebody who was actually a collector or like a sports seller of items. So like these guys are like, hey, check it out. Look, it's even got the, the inscription on it. If you want to chide him for throwing the glove and being unsportsmanlike, sure. Could he have handled his emotions better? Maybe. That's what happened in the game. You have guys who break bats on their knee, people who come back in and throw things around the dugout. Who was the player on the Mariners last year who broke his foot because he was kicking something in the dugout?
Like, I forget what his name is, but I know what you're talking about.
But like, this happens. I'm not saying it's okay, but like, why is it okay for some players and not for others? If the Mets wanted to DFA him for a multitude of reasons, they're not sharing that with us. But just on that alone, I didn't see a problem.
And I want to preface this because this is a guy, we're talking about a guy who his ERA was in the middle threes. Okay. So I don't know if you want to say he was DFA'd for performance, because I don't think that's bad, being a bullpen pitcher.
We have umpires getting upset for lesser things in the game right now.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't think the throwing of the glove, the way he did it, I think matters.
If he had like chucked it over his shoulder, like straight out from his shoulder, like you're throwing a football and you're trying to get that spiral and hit something, that's a problem. The fact that you could tell it was frustration. I wouldn't even call he threw it per se. He flung it up.
Yeah, he flung it up. So I'm not buying that was the reason why they DFA'd him. I think the reason why they DFA'd him was because of what was said. And that is a completely different story in itself. So it was reported immediately. The headlines everywhere I saw on social media was he said that he is on the worst team in Major League Baseball. And then it turns out that's not what he said. If you listen to the audio, he said teammate. Now, he has a very strong accent, and I can see how in the initial response you would think it was team. Now, a lot of this clip was not it was one very select, and again, this is another reason why you have to be careful on social media, because the clip that they played was just that one. There is a longer clip where one of the reporters doubles down and asks him, hey, are you really saying that you are? And at that point, you could tell that he was just like, no. What you could tell, what was obvious to me was, I don't think he understood the question very well. And that to me is a reason why, look, on the Dodgers, we have a few players that use translators. You have Shohei Ohtani, you have Yamamoto, some of the Spanish-speaking players, Andy Bajes uses a translator. This is the reason why I feel a lot of these players are afraid to say anything in those post-game interviews, because you don't even know how the translator is translating what you're saying.
I think, and especially this is like super personal to me, or very sensitive to me, just coming from an interpreter background, where I feel like if there was a misunderstanding already, continuing to ask the same question, people have been using that as, well, look, they asked for clarification. Okay, but if he didn't understand, or the person asking the question, they're clearly not understanding each other. If you continue to ask the same thing, you're not getting anywhere. At that point, hey, maybe we should get an interpreter to come over. Let's get some clarification, especially if you're going to run with something like this. Because I've been on, even just learning another language, the receiving end, somebody saying something and you're like, yeah, I think that's what I meant. I don't know. I think I said it the right way, but did I? And so it's unfortunate that there wasn't a clear way. People have been arguing that this is why, much kind of like your point, players are not going to want to speak in English if they don't speak it that well, because look what happened. And we also know that he's got some other personal stuff going on in his life that might have contributed to his mental state right now. It's language is so important. We've even seen it with Shohei Ohtani when that whole home run thing happened, and somebody was like, "Well, he said he met the people when they came back to get the ball," and that's not what he said. The interpretation wasn't fully clear, and that's not a knock on Will Ireton. It's just there was a misunderstanding in the communication. He meant that the Dodgers or whoever had met with them. And so it's just one little word can change a message, as we're seeing now. And I don't know. It's unfortunate. We won't know why they DFA'd him, but a lot of unfortunate incidents all happening at once. And we know he has, like I said, some stuff in his personal life that's going on. And I'm sure that contributed. I know when I have stuff going on, I could be on at work and doing a great job, but I could be doing a better job if I wasn't, my attention wasn't fractured.
Yeah, and look, to be fair to those interpreters, that happens really, really fast. Like these questions, I mean, these are a 2-minute, 3-minute interviews sometimes, and you gotta translate it fast. You gotta do it, so it lends itself for mistakes to be made. I do just at this point, I really feel it was the social media reaction, because the headline was the Mets are the worst team in MLB. I feel the Mets were embarrassed, and that because they were embarrassed, they decided to make an example of this guy. And look, again, it's one of those things where I feel like, come on, guys, let's look at logic here. Let's look at what's happening. I don't know if the players union can do anything in this kind of situation, but I do feel like this guy kind of got the short end of the stick in this situation, because like I said, in terms of performance, yeah, he didn't pitch well that game, but overall, like I said, I would take that ERA on my team, from the bullpen.
Well, and if we're going to be an international sport and we're going to laud ourselves that way with our World Series, I feel like we need to give a lot of these international players some grace. Like I've seen a lot of stuff on social media, whether players have been here for a year, a couple years, people were even saying it, to Shohei, why doesn't he speak English yet? English is not an easy language to learn. And I don't know about you, but from what I've seen being around baseball players, all they pretty much do is wake up, practice, play games, practice again and go to bed. So where are you getting the time to learn an entire language? I feel like they're doing the best they can. Shohei's probably speaking to the best of his ability at this point. This guy tried to do an interview in English and it blew up in his face. And I feel like if we're going to be an international sport, we need to have a little bit more grace. Definitely rely on those interpreters, but also give the interpreters some grace too, because like you said, it is happening fast. That is we're trying to do the same thing with umpires, making these split-second calls, these players having a split second to hit a ball. Let's try to give everybody some grace. Like, step back, take a breath.
Look, I know a lot of people who were born in this country that still have a hard time with English, so it's an unfortunate situation for him. I want to segue to a topic that I want to spend some time. We've been talking about this, hinting at it the last few episodes. We are now in June, And this is the traditional time in Major League Baseball where I feel you start identifying what the holes are in your team, what the problems are, getting ready for the trade deadline, and how we are going to address these problems. This is the period where you start to evaluate, do we have in house solutions to these problems, or do we need to go outside and get solutions to those problems? So, Amy, what I want to focus on is, what do you think the Dodgers' problems are? And are they problems that need to be addressed at the trade deadline?
I mean, we can always get help. I mean, definitely having a lot of our high leverage relievers on the IL isn't helping us, right? Do we need to have relievers to bolster those? Especially, I think you brought up last episode. We don't know when Brusdar Graterol is coming back. We haven't really gotten updates, I think, on Joe Kelly.
Right.
So I mean, I think we're functioning better this year than we were last year, and we won 100 games. Some of the stuff I think is more offensive production. So it's like, left field, making sure the bottom of our lineup's hitting, like where do we go from there? What do we do with some of those players that haven't been able to find their rhythm yet?
I think you make a very interesting point with the bullpen in this, because at this point, look, the bullpen is missing some big arms and they're doing really well. The issue is bullpens are usually inconsistent. So we don't know if they're going to be able to keep this up. But I think that's one of those things, because
And as the season goes on, they're going to be the ones to wear it. So as these starters go fewer and fewer innings or not as far in the game, it's going to be the relievers we're calling on. And the last thing we need is another Brandon Morrow situation as we get towards the end of the year.
That's why I want my starters to go 6 innings, Amy.
Yes,
That's why
I know you do, but we have so many other factors that haven't been addressed in baseball as to why. Why have we seen this shift in the game? And if that's the case, do we need to expand? Is it more than 40 players that you get, and you get to carry more pitchers because pitchers aren't going farther into the game and relievers only go 1 or 2 innings? So what do we do if we can't get starters to go farther without getting injured? Changes need to be made.
Bullpens are very volatile. If you ask me now, I didn't think the Dodgers would trade for a reliever because I feel they have options there to me. But that can change, because if you start realizing Brazier's not coming back, Joe Kelly's not coming back, if some of these guys aren't going to come back, then I think they do need to go get another bullpen arm. But for me, I think the glowing need and what's becoming a problem is the 7, 8, 9 spots. And this is, I think, where the Dodgers are in a really tricky situation, because Andy Bacchus came out and he was guns blazing. He was fantastic. Everybody's like, Andy Bacchus is going to be the next star. He's here to stay. So he's going to solve your center field problem. Then he went into a funk and everybody's like, wait a minute. Maybe Andy Bacchus is not the solution. Maybe Andy Bacchus is going to go through what a James Outman went through.
You mean rookies where teams finally get some tape on them, and Cody Bellinger went through the same thing? Like, this is not new to baseball. This is what makes me laugh.
No, exactly. But now Andy Bacchus this past week has started hitting again. And now you're starting, okay, so I feel like the outfield spots are an issue just because of the inconsistency. The Oscar is the only consistent production that you're getting from the outfield.
And he can play all over too.
Yeah, and he's getting moved around from left to right. So for me, what seems to be the issue is that you have 2 outfield spots, basically wherever the Oscar is not playing, that you're getting inconsistent production from. So I know we still have time because it's June, but if you continue to get this level of inconsistency as you get closer to the trade,
left field has been an issue since the offseason, and we've plugged it with Teoscar sometimes when Jay Hay's now back, Chris Taylor, and now Miguel Vargas, which both of those players are not strong. Well, Chris Taylor is not bad in left field. He's actually pretty good in left field. It's his bat that's the problem, because he's hitting 108 right now.
Well, that's the dilemma, though, right, Amy? It's like, okay, is this the Bajes that we're going to get? Like, if he continues to hit like this, do you just go with Bajes in center field for the rest of the season?
Which is what we did
And
with Outman last year.
right, and then maybe just trade for another outfielder, because Jason Hayward is another guy that is giving you inconsistency. Miguel Vargas had a nice little stretch there in Nueva York, 2 games against the Metropolitans, and his reward was we get back to LA and you get to sit on the bench for the next 2 games. So I don't know if you're going to actually be able to see what you can get from Miguel Vargas, or maybe Miguel Vargas becomes a trade chip. But to me, that's where the gamble, and that's what they need to decide in these next 2 months is, do we our in-house options, are they enough to solve these inconsistency issues that we have in the outfield, or do we need to go get somebody that I saw a lot this weekend and I know you have strong feelings about, and that is Tommy Pham. There are a lot of people that in the offseason thought the Dodgers should have gotten Tommy Pham. When the outfielders were going through it at the beginning of the season, I kept seeing people sending me messages. We should have signed Tommy Pham. We should have signed Tommy Pham. I bring this up because, first of all, did you see what happened with Tommy Pham this past weekend?
Oh, I did. I'm not a Tommy Pham fan. I didn't want him on the offseason. I was one of the ones like, please don't sign him. I don't think he's a good clubhouse fit. The Dodgers prize their clubhouse mentality, the personality of that group. I don't think he would be a good fit, and I don't really care what he's producing on the field at the plate, because I don't think he's a good fit as a teammate. Just some of the comments that he threw around in the like the dust up he got in with Wilson Contreras. I mean, his comment was, this is why he's fighting in the off season, because he is always prepared to basically F somebody up. Like, okay. So he says this in the media, and nobody, like, everybody's just like, oh, that's Tommy Pham. But, Jorge Lopez says something, and good gosh, the internet is up in arms.
He did come off as a sociopath, right?
I'm not a fan. I don't like what he did to Jock Peterson before a game, that smack. Like, I don't like what he's done in other situations. I'm not a fan of how he holds himself. So to me, that's not somebody I want to see on quote unquote my team.
I heard this argument a lot. I want to get your thoughts on this, and that is, there are a lot of people who feel like that kind of attitude that you're going to bring into the clubhouse will not fly in the Dodgers clubhouse. They will not respond well to that kind of energy. But then there's a lot of Dodger fans who reached out to me this weekend and said, this is what the Dodgers need, and they need somebody like Tommy Pham in their clubhouse. How do you think that Dodgers clubhouse would react? And do they need somebody like that who is going to bring a level of intensity that is going to kind of put everyone on edge?
But that's not the intensity I want to win games. Like, I want things like when Teoscar hit that home run and he did that bat flip that most people would be like, oh gosh, that bat flip. I want to see stuff like that. Shake things up that way. Figure out how to like shake each other up. I don't think what Tommy Pham would do in this dugout, in this clubhouse, that's not bringing people together and firing them up. That's isolating one person, and then you're just uniting everybody else against that person. I don't think that's good to me, that's like a clubhouse cancer. I don't think so.
It's interesting because, like I said, I do feel that the Dodgers need to address at least 2 outfield spots. There is still time. So I think this is a very important period for Andy Bajes, because last year we saw Miguel Vargas get sent down right before the All-Star game. So let's see what Andy Bajes looks like, at least up until the All-Star break. But I think the outfield spots are something that the Dodgers probably need to address come the trade deadline.
And are we trying to platoon left field? We're already semi-platooning right field at this point.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it has to do with what you said also in terms of injuries, like who is coming back. like how long Muncy is going to be out for. And if Muncy's out longer than we think, or, let's say, hope not, but what if Muncy doesn't come back? Does that mean now the Dodgers have to do something at third? And then I think the other big position that they have to look at is second base. And you have brought this up many times, and that you like Miguel Rojas, and what he's doing at second base. And maybe we should see more. Miguel Rojas should see more time at second base. Like, I think that's something that's another position that the Dodgers are going to have to decide whether they need to do something.
Wait, Miguel at shortstop or second base? Because
Second base.
I like him at short, but that would mean that Mookie would need to move to second, which is where he was set to play at the beginning of the year anyway. I'm all for whatever they decide in the clubhouse, because who am I? I think Kike is doing a stellar job at third base. He is raking over there. He's making some great plays. He, even just seeing him prepare the last couple weekends when we've been there on the field before the games, like, he is putting in the work, just like Mookie is. Mookie, all of the whole infield. I mean, this team doesn't slack. You see Mookie out there, Kike, Rojas, you see Lux out there. They're all taking grounders before games, and you can see the intensity that they're bringing. I think if you shake things up, fine. If I hope Muncy comes back soon, because people have also been, saying we're missing that bat in the lineup. But I think Kike has been doing pretty good athletically, holding down that third base spot. So,
and maybe another thing that the Dodgers look at is, if Muncy comes back, it solves maybe a problem, because now you can put Kike back in the outfield. Kike has not been in this outfield mix because of the fact he's had to cover third for Muncy. So maybe having Kike be another option in the outfield will help the outfield situation right now. But I feel, to me, look, starting pitching wise, I think they're fine, barring, of course, injuries, because Bobby Miller is going to be coming back. You still have Clayton Kershaw. Look, realistically, what can you expect from Kershaw? Is Kershaw going to be kind of like Walker Buehler, where you're just going to
opener? Is he will he concede to being a setup guy, or like come out of the bullpen?
But for the first time, I just, like I said, it is depending on what happens with the injury situation. But I think for the first time in a few trade deadlines, I think the focus is going to be position players as opposed to pitching. So we have gotten to that point of the year. That's why we wanted to have this conversation. Are there any other needs that you think that the Dodgers should be gearing up to as the trade deadline approaches?
I mean, I think the biggest one for me, like, if I had to pick one spot, I would say, honestly, it's left field, because Pages may not be hitting consistently, but he's been doing pretty good defending out in that center field spot. Much like Outman did last year too. Our challenges a lot of the time, I mean, aside from some errors here and there, which is going to happen, these guys are human, is offensively. How many excellent defenders can you carry who also happen to not be hitting? And that's the challenge, right? You can't have everybody outside of like the 3 or 4 hitters, like at the top of the lineup. You can't have them not hitting. So is it okay if, Kike or Rojas go maybe a little more hitless here and there, but they have great defense? But then if you start to add in like Barnes, Taylor, Vargas, like some of those other guys, if Pages is going in his up and down, then at that point, what do you do? Because then you can't consistently count on that offense.
So is really the solution, Amy, just to move Mookie back to right field? You keep Bacchus in center, and that way you can keep the Oscar in left.
But you have Hayward. Like, are you saying what are you going to do with Hayward?
Look, for me, Hayward is a guy off the bench in the playoffs. He's a veteran presence, but in terms look, I know he just recently came back from that back injury, and it's probably going to go ahead and take him some time, but the issue at hand is you're not getting the same level of production. The issue with Jason Hayward,
I think you keep Mookie in the infield, though. That's where he wants to play.
Yeah, but here's in regards to Jason Hayward, here's the thing with him, and that is, it is now like a year. Like the production that you got from Jason Hayward last year was at the beginning of the year. After the All-Star break, his production declined, and the way he has started this year has not encouraged me at all. So I mean, I see your
He's
point
still
in terms of
hitting better than some of the players on our team. He's
Wait,
234 right now.
yeah, but is that the kind of production that you want in your outfield?
Well,
Look, I mean,
right now you've got 2 out of the 3 spots that aren't consistently producing. So sometimes 3 because he's a rookie. So what do? That's 3
well,
spots right now that are inconsistent.
and that's what the Dodgers need to figure out in these next 2 months. Is the solution to those 2 spots not producing, is it in a house, or do we need to go ahead? I know you don't want Tommy Pham, but there is the idea. I've heard these crazy. I don't think this is real, but after they played the Metropolitans, because the report is the Metropolitans are going to have a fire sale, do you get someone like Harrison Bader and Francisco Lindor? You address an outfield, then you get Lindor to play short, and you move Mookie to second. Like, these are all things. Look, this is not the end of this conversation.
Sure. I don't think I'm looking for somebody at shortstop though. Like I think Rojas does a great job there. Whether it's Mookie there, Mookie had a fire play yesterday, getting it out at second, playing shortstop. Like I think I got pictures of it. Like he is like leaping in the air. It's one of those leaping catches and plays that he did just because he is so athletic. Whether you have Mookie or you have Rojas at shortstop, to me, that's not a hole you need to fill.
And that was a great play. And I will give you the other perspective on that same play when I got the text message saying a good throw would have made that a double play. And it's fascinating to me because the majority of Mookie's errors are throwing errors. And I feel like he has such a great arm in the outfield. And I feel like the majority of his errors come when he does that sidearm throw. And on that play that you were talking about, he sidearmed it from second to first, and Federico couldn't.
We got the out at second. We did not get it at first.
Federico, like if Federico would have, I mean, and that was a hard pick, but if Federico could have found a way to pick that would have been exactly what you just described, an amazing double play.
But I also think that some of that goes with it's situational as well, because it wasn't like he just stopped the ball at, either second or he was at short and then he had the opportunity to throw it. He grabbed that ball, tagged the base, and he had a player sliding right at him. And so in that moment, it's not just a clean play. He is leaping because he's also trying to get out of that guy's way. So yeah, there's some stuff that's not going on in a traditional double play. So to me, I think that plays into it. It's not just like, well, it would be great if you could throw to first base. Well, there were some things going on that precluded just being able to just toss to first.
You're absolutely right. So we're going to wrap things up because the Dodgers will be playing the Yankees this weekend in Nueva York. And Amy, both you and I were not alive, but during the 50s and back in the day, this was a huge rivalry. The Dodgers played the Yankees, it seemed, every year in the World Series and always lost to the Yankees until 1955 came around. You saw it. There were a couple instances, not as much as before in the 60s, where they rematched in the World Series. In the 70s, they had 2 matchups in the World Series. And it always seemed like the Dodgers came in on the short end of the stick. And this, every once in a while, they would find a way to beat them like they did in 1981. The fact that now with the change of the schedule and that these teams will be playing each other every year, can we go back to thinking, like, I know that this is not a San Francisco Giants Dodgers rivalry. Hell, it's not even the Dodgers versus the Cardinals. But will we be able to start looking at this, at the Dodgers and the Yankees, as a real rivalry again, now that we know they're going to face each other at least once every year?
You can do whatever you want. Yes, of course. Why not? The rivalry has always been there. It's just been dormant. So why not?
So you still think it is a legitimate rivalry then?
More than some teams think we have a rivalry. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we still have to get to this weekend. So we're playing the I think it's the Pittsburgh Pirates first. So we've got Glasnow, Paxton, and Bueller set to go, and then we'll see how everything shakes out this weekend.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very rough week for the Doyers. That Yankees team right now is clicking on all cylinders. What Juan Soto is doing, I mean, this is like Juan Soto started off with a ridiculous start to the season. Now Aaron Judge is going nuts. Okay. He's going nuts to the point where you're not even focusing on Juan Soto anymore. And yet Juan Soto is still doing ridiculous things.
It's almost what people say about the Dodgers. Like, wow, what a great rivalry.
I mean, I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie to you. I am, everybody knows I'm a Stalloner's Club member. And so this is a perfect time to bring up Rocky 3. And in Rocky 3, yeah, that's right. In Rocky 3, there's the great line where Rocky Balboa says to Apollo, "I'm scared." All right. Now, actually, he says it to Mickey, and then he says it again to Adrian. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared for this week. I don't think it's going to be good times. I'm afraid those Dodgers are going to go into Yankee Stadium and they are going to be intimidated by the Yankees. And I feel like Soto and Aaron Judge are just going to destroy the ball. So talk me out of this.
Well, now I just know that I need to start sending you a lot of positive texts this weekend. Done and done. I don't think if you were to talk to Mookie Betts right now or any of those other guys, they're not intimidated by another team. They respect that they are a good team. They will be going head to head with these guys, and they're going to play this game like they've played every other game this year, and they're just going to go into it one game at a time. And you can enjoy it for what it is, or you can Chicken Little. It's up to you. You get to decide how you want to watch the game, but I know our guys are going to give it their all, and that's how I'm going to be watching this weekend. So I'll make sure to send you some extra positive texts.
Yeah, I mean this Yankees team. The Phillies. At the time of recording this, the Phillies of Philadelphia have the best record in Major League Baseball, but the Yankees are not that far behind.
They're leading the AL East. They're 42-19 right now.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm talking about overall in all of Major League Baseball.
Sure.
The Phillies have the best record, and then the Yankees. That Yankees team is just right now, I feel like they're playing better baseball than the Dodgers are. Like I said, beating the Metropolitans and then beating a bad Rockies team does not. We've talked about the fact that Shohei Ohtani, I don't think is 100%. I think because of that. Yeah, exactly. Because of that, his mechanics are all out of whack, and you have a bottom of the lineup that is just not producing. So for me, that is all looking at it going, this is not going to be good times.
I beg to differ, though, because the bottom of the lineup has actually been showing up a little bit more. I think it was Eric Stevens who had a stat. Over the last 10 games, Mookie, Shohei, and Freddie, they've combined to hit 257. And the rest of the Dodgers outside of those have been hitting 253, which is not bad considering that they weren't hitting at all before. So these guys they're slowly finding their way, and it's baseball. They're going to win some, they're going to lose some. Worst case scenario, they lose many. But at the same time, I think I said it in our last episode, they're going to learn something from it. Hopefully they win. We don't know how any of them are going to show up on any given day because everybody has their own stuff going on and they're going to try their hardest. So,
yeah. And these are going to be all primetime games, all 3 games. On Friday, they will be on Apple TV. On Saturday, they're going to be on Fox. And Sunday, they're going to be on ESPN. So it is going to be Dodgers and Yankees shoved down everyone's throat, whether you like it or not.
This is baseball. You don't want to necessarily see the Dodgers against the Rockies. You want to see the Dodgers against the Yankees. This is what baseball's about. The Yankees are putting money into their team. You want to see that play out against the Dodgers.
Yeah, I just want a competitive series. I really want it to be competitive.
I think you're going to get that. So there you go.
So we're going to end the show on this. I just want to let everybody know for my mental state, what I'm in right now, being a Stalloner's Club member. This is, I'm hoping it doesn't go like this, but this is what's going on right now.
We got everything but the truth. What's that truth, damn it?
I'm afraid, all right? You want to hear me say it? You want to break me down? All right, I'm afraid. For the first time in my life, I'm afraid.
There we go. There we go. I'm going to leave you guys with that. It's the Loners Club.
Oh, you and I will never watch baseball the same. You're already going into it negative, and I'm like, I want to see some good baseball.
Whatever. I'm not going to, one of these days I'm going to catch the truth, and our listeners, our viewers are going to be so surprised because you forget I've watched baseball games with you, and there's a side of you that surprised me. That surprised me. So,
yes, but I've
all the Care Bears there.
I have also gone into this season. I am going to enjoy baseball because when I watched it and was negative, it didn't do me any favors. I wasn't enjoying baseball, and right now, I'm enjoying it. So,
yes. So, okay, with that, I am going to go into the mindset. Hopefully, we have competitive series. It's going to be exciting baseball, and we'll have a lot to talk about it next week. So, anything else that you want to address before we end things?
Yes, join my book club. Right now we're reading Perfect Eloquence, the story of an appreciation of Vin Scully.
Oh, is that a new book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's by Tom Hofferth. Wow, I butchered his name. Hoferth. So
wow.
Yeah.
They have not done a good job promoting that book. So that book just recently came out?
It came out a couple months ago and it was promoted on Twitter. That's how I found out about it. So I am currently reading it. So it's actually really great. The author breaks it down into 9 chapters, much like a game. But because Vin Scully was so against people writing an autobiography about him because he was just a regular guy, this is everybody's stories after he passed on that they have of him. So it's telling his story, but through the eyes of everybody who admired him or had any run-ins with him. And so I'm partway through, and it's so enjoyable. So my impromptu book club, if you guys are looking for a good book, I'm just starting it and it's really good. I've teared up a couple of times.
Thank you for sharing that. You can tell who on the show is not an avid reader. So that's going to do it for this episode of Baseball Shangri-La. For those of you who have been listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us comments. We love engaging with you guys. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amy Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amy, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.